I really have no idea how well the audio is going to work on this, but I've already assembled one of these and just kind of go through a test run. But what I was sort of hoping is that I could, maybe avoid some of the mistakes the first time before I actually committed to building one. And anyways, it's a really fast build. I mean, it's hard to represent how easy they make these kits to build. I mean, it's just so easy. It's so easy. They make it so easy. So what I'm going to try to do is just kind of roll through this, not talk much, but just kind of roll through this. And probably possible complication is that I usually use my phone to read the instructions, and I'm using it to film. So that might be the hardest thing about this whole ordeal. But so anyways, I've got two of these guys. This is actually my second time building a set of CTXs. I had when the color modules first launched, and it was just the 3-color palette module. I built one of those, and whatever the first 3 things that launched were, I had those built and loved it. Thought it was super cool. Ended up building some of the CP5 modules, which I thought were a little bit more useful because it had a mic preamp in it. I didn't have to kind of occupy 2 rack spaces or 2 500 slot spaces with preamp, and then something for color. And so I thought the CP5 was kind of a better fit. So I ended up offloading the original color palette to my buddy and keeping the CP5. And then after a while, I just missed having the options. So yeah, anyways, DIY Recording Equipment was kind enough to let me try to build one of these color duos, and it's a single rack, for basically 2 preamps and then a color palette all built into one single rack unit, and really nice. So it's kind of like all the things I wanted from the color palette, the original color palette, and then the CP5. And so yeah, I mean, the CTX was one of my favorite modules, and unfortunately just went with that color palette when I sent it to my buddy. So that was the first thing I wanted to build again. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, that's a sizable transformer. I mean, that's not nothing. And it got a nice discrete op amp in there. And so yeah, this is the Red 25. Really simple. If you've ever had to build a discrete op amp, it's not fun because they have to be small, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So this is a great design. Doesn't require any biasing or anything like that, or whipping out a multimeter or an oscilloscope or anything like that. So I think this is about as good as it gets. But if you're not super familiar with the color modules, basically there's a couple different formats. I mentioned kind of the color palette, which is kind of a 3-space, or it can hold up to 3 colors in it, and it's really kind of meant to be like an outboard effect. So you can load up to 3 of these, and they don't have to be the CTX, right? There's a lot of different colors now. Everything from trying to emulate, or not emulate, actually just give you like straight up transformer flavor and vibe, right? Or tape saturation, or the summing bus off an SSL console, or there's just so many different things. I think there's some overdrives, there's a Pultec a module. I mean, there's just so many cool things. So people are really creative with this format, and I think they did a great job, like just kind of coming up with this idea, because it's hardware plugins. I mean, I think that was the concept. So anyways, I'll quit rambling on, but this is, I guess, technically the Mark II of the CTX. I honestly have no idea what the difference is, but yeah, I mean, gosh, look at that. I mean, it's just right there, the manual, right there, the link. They thought of everything. So anyways, I'll get to the build, and you can watch me mess up, and I'll try to be upfront with you when I mess up. So yeah, let's get to it. Yeah, so first things first, unboxing this bad boy. It's a really nice package. I guess just for y'all's comparison, I also got this Louder Than Liftoff Royal Blue. This is a really cool module. Louder Than Liftoff is one of the companies that has kind of taken off with the color format and made some really neat, interesting modules. But yeah, so this is, it's a pretty form factor. I just love the branding. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but gosh, I just love the branding of their stuff. But yeah, just unboxing. I mean, it's really simple, and I think you'll see, like, if you've never built something like this before, I mean, this is frankly about as easy as it gets. And you might be thinking, oh, it's, you know, pro audio equipment, you know, it's supposed to be complicated, and you know, there's a lot of, you know, intricate soldering required and all this stuff. And you know, this is just the color module, and granted, this is rather straightforward, but I mean, gosh, look at this. I mean, there's probably 20 components, if that. I don't know the exact count, but they put them in these nice labeled bags. I mean, come on, it's about as easy as it gets. So anyways, I'm gonna start with populating the board, but yeah, everything's nicely labeled. If you go to the instructions, it's pretty clear. So just gotta start building, and yeah, hopefully I don't mess up. With that, I went ahead and got a tablet so I can actually read through the instructions. I figured it was bad form to, you know, just wing it in front of you guys. So what I want to show you is, like, so required tools. If I just go through the manual, soldering iron, which I have here. I have a Weller soldering iron. This is pretty nice. You don't need this, okay? I love this. I think this is a great soldering iron. You don't need it. I for years and years and years, I've done electronics, soldering, and you know, everything from, you know, back of guitars, guitar amps, you know, this kind of stuff, PCBs, fine work, everything. I used to buy the cheapest ones I could get at Radio Shack, which, you know, rip. But yeah, there's cheap options on Amazon, so don't feel like there's this huge barrier of entry to get something really nice that costs, you know, north of $100 or more. Frankly, there are cheaper options there at work fine. The best thing you can do is get plenty of tips, like for the soldering iron, to make sure you find something that is easily replaceable. Temperature control is nice. It's not, you know, totally necessary. Frankly, again, for probably close to 10 years, I've used things that are, you know, probably cost about 20 bucks, and they get way overheated, and and they're not particularly nice, and you know, a lot of plastic, and they smell a little funny when they heat up. But you know, just make sure you're in a well ventilated space. This one is awesome though. It's got some really cool functions. You know, will like go to sleep and go to like a you know, a low temperature whenever it's not being used. It can detect that, and then I can kind of like tap it on the sponge, and that will kind of sense that and heat back up. So there's really cool things there. Obviously, you need some solder, which I have here, and you know, I'm not super picky about solder. Just make sure, you know, there's leaded, and there's a couple different kinds of solder, and you can get everything from super expensive, crazy stuff that's like silver basically, and you can use really cheap stuff that's probably not super great for your lungs, or, you know, living long. So, you know, just try to pick up something that's relatively good and has some good reviews. The other required tool here is wire cutters. These are way too big for most electronics work. I used to have a little small set that was great for like getting in and clipping the traces on the PCB. I don't know what I did with those. These are ones I've been using. You know, they work great. The big thing is, like, if you're anything like me, you probably have a set of these laying around somewhere that are old and not sharp, and don't have a very good point at the end. And if you're trying to use these, and the other thing that can be killer, and this one's like this too, is how recessed this blade is right here, or where the cutting edge is. Because what you're gonna end up doing, and maybe you can see better on this one, you know, you're gonna put everything in there, solder it, and then you're gonna need to get in there and clip, you know, the leftover leads so they're not sticking out. And this one's not super pretty, honestly, but it's good enough. But you know, if this is, you know, if you've got a lot of things really close together, good luck using something like this to cut the leads. Again, this is like a pretty reasonable, easy board to work with, so there's not too much tight stuff, but it does get a little cumbersome even with these. But these are nice and sharp, and have a comfortable grip and everything, so it's, you're not just, you know, torquing it, because you can break stuff. So I mean, that's the main stuff. They say a multimeter is an optional tool, a desoldering pump, which I do have one of those. I honestly don't use them very much anymore, but you know, if you make a mistake, it's helpful to have a way to get the solder off. And so, yeah, I mean, there's also desoldering braids, which I don't really like those, but lots of ways to kind of, you know, if you make a mistake, you need to swap a component around. Having some way to pull the leads out, it's fine. You know, I've gotten where I can kind of just do with a soldering iron, but you know, you have to be careful when you're working with printed circuit boards. Essentially, the way these are manufactured, right, is you've kind of got like this non-conductive board with a thin layer of usually copper or something on the top, and whether through mechanical means or chemical means, they etch away the copper and leave only what's needed. So again, you can kind of see here, you have these really fine traces, and then they'll, you know, these ones are nice. They've got a nice little like mask over them, so not all of it's exposed, and you know, you kind of see that red tint over the copper lines. But what can happen is as you're heating these things up over and over again, or if you're just kind of rough with them as you're heating up, what can start to happen is this copper can actually start to separate from the board. And if you can imagine, this is a really thin ribbon of copper. So if you're not careful, right, or if you're just absolutely rough in some scenarios, and especially with cheaper boards, this is actually a very nicely manufactured printed circuit board. That sounds silly to say, but I mean, it really is. Some less quality boards, or if you're just kind of rough with them, you can start heating those up, and if you make a lot of mistakes, you know, they do kind of have a life on them. They're not meant to be soldered, unsoldered forever. And especially if you're trying to heat it up and you're trying to pull something in or out of the joint, and you're flexing it or pushing and pulling against the board, you have an opportunity to tear these leads, and that would just kind of, there's ways around it, but it can be devastating if in the wrong circumstances. So anyways, yeah, I think that's kind of like the beginning. They do have this component sorting sheet where you can go in, and I'll just open up, you know, one of these things. If you're not familiar with how electronic components are labeled, this can be super confusing. I won't get too much into this because there's way better guides on this. But if you look at a resistor, for instance, and I don't know how well that shows up on the camera, but for these, like these blue ones, I think these are all metal film or metal oxide, something like that. There's on this particular, and these are typically modern resistors, there's 5 bands, and it might look like they're all the same color, but these ones are actually, it's brown, black, 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 brown. Okay, and that actually means something, right? And the different colors represent like a different number. So you kind of can use this. I think, you know, black black is 0, brown is 1, and it kind of follows the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And you can use that to kind of say like, oh, 1, 0, 0, and then the last one will kind of be you know, times 10 to the, you know, and that gives you that last like little bit of math there. You can know that, and it is helpful to know that. I think like really being able just to know the color charts off the top of your hand is helpful for doing like the initial sorting. If you're not a mathy guy, or you just don't care to know this stuff, there are plenty of tools online that are resistor color calculators. I mean, you just kind of Google something like that, and it will help you like kind of decipher these. But you know, I could look at this and say, oh, this is a 10 ohm resistor, I think it is, and I know that by the colors, and you just kind of get used to it. But you'll kind of also see like there are some typical ones like brown, black, something, you know, is usually pretty common. That's your kind of 10s, 100s, 1K, 10K, 100K. You'll see you know, yellow, purple, which is, you know, 47. Again, I'm not going to go through all the potential combinations, but if you kind of get like used to them, it will at least help you start to figure out where things go. And I told you it was 10 ohms is 100 ohms. And then if you look at this board, they've just done some really nice things for you, okay? I mean, they give you the component number, R1, R2, but they also give you, you know, 249R, that means 249 ohms, 100K. They label the capacitor. Oh no, they did put the value of the capacitor in there. But yeah, so there is a sorting sheet, and that can be super helpful for you if you want to do that before you start. I'm kind of living in the Wild West, and I just kind of go with it. If this was a larger kit with way more components, I'd be way more inclined to kind of start sorting those things beforehand. And also just because it is like kind of the worst if you're doing what I'm about to do and you're not paying attention, which inevitably will happen, and you grab a resistor or something that you didn't mean to grab, and you solder that in place, and then you go and you do that, 100 more times, and then you find out at the very end, you're going, oh, it's the last resistor, and you grab it and you go, wait, this isn't the right one. It's just way easier to make a mistake. So if you're new at this, or you just want to be more careful, sorting the stuff out beforehand doesn't hurt. It will certainly help you out. Again, they've done such a good job with these kits. I mean, gosh, the bags are numbered. We've got kind of the mechanical components here. So this has like the plastic standoffs for the board. So they clip in on here, and then that allows you to clip them into the actual, like, whatever's holding the color module. They've got the pins for the actual interface, again, to the whatever you're putting your color module into. That makes the electrical connection. And then in here also there's the discrete op amp, needs little special sockets, so we'll solder those in as well. The second bag is your resistors. As you can see, there's 7 resistors in here, not a ton to worry about. Just a handful of capacitors here. This has the transformer in it, and then the discrete op amp is the last thing. And frankly, the discrete op amp is the hardest part of the whole kit. Not because of any like electrical component, it's these little pins. So I said, we got to solder in these interface sockets to receive the discrete op amp. Well, the little pins that solder into this board and then will eventually clip into this, they're not like this. I won't take it out because it's like kind of in there, but this, as you can see, this like actually stands off the board. I could pull this off and I could swap out another discrete op amp, because this is just kind of a standard pinout configuration. I don't know the history perfectly well, but API consoles had discrete op amps like this. And again, I'm sure someone else established the standard, but that's kind of been the thing that people have stuck to, because it works, and people have made a lot of discrete op amps over the years to retrofit those consoles. And then you've got all the API modules that come after the fact. But yeah, it's a really cool thing. We could talk forever about, or I could talk forever about a lot of this stuff, but I think the big thing is I want to show you guys kind of how I build this. And again, I'll try to be honest. If I make a mistake, I'll show you. But right now, I'm going to get into it.